loading. Testing, testing. Is it using my... Testing, testing. That's Hey there guys, welcome, welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Today I'm going to be working on some new Fakemon designs for the Hahbah region. Starting with this guy, which I do not have a name for yet. This is unnamed fire type Pokemon, maybe fire grass type. But right now, I had this idea the other night for a fire grass type that was like burning wood, campfire, stuff like that. And I started working on the first form, because sometimes I work from the first form up, but then I was just in the car a couple days ago, and I had the visuals for this design. And I was like, I want to do that one first. And then work backwards into the first stage and maybe a third stage. I feel like I need some more 3-stage evolutions in the Hahbah region right now, so I might make it a 3-stage. Kind of feels like a 3-stage. If this is the final stage, it feels like it needs a middle form, just visually. Yeah, I had this vision of... this is going to sound very specific. Did anyone have, as a child, a toy that was a wooden snake that was cut along the sides of it so that it could articulate? Like, let me see if I can find a picture of what I'm talking about. Wooden snake toy. Yeah, like these. So they're cut. It's a single piece of wood, but it's cut just so that there's a tiny little piece connecting the wood. And so that you could bend it. And I had a toy snake. It was at my grandparents' house. And they brought it out at Christmas time. I don't know why. I don't know why it was a Christmas toy. And none of these are exactly what I had. But you get the idea. Anyway, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about a log that was cut, but not cut all the way. You know, cut across so that it would bend if you applied weight to either end of it. And anyway, that's sort of where there's like no like specific. This is the other thing about this Pokemon is it's like I've been trying to do more designs that are like less specific to something in real life. I think I've talked about this before, how I really like Pokemon designs that obviously take inspiration from the real world, because we live in the real world, everything we create does, but are just so unique, so their own thing. And so like I gave it a beak too, and like I didn't really have a good reason for giving it a beak, other than just like it made the face look cooler. So I just kind of kept it. Like I don't feel like this is like explicitly like a bird design. It has a beak. I was thinking about how like older Pokemon designs, like Machamp or Magmar, like they're not birds, but they just have like beak-looking mouths. And I kind of like that. I don't know. I just kind of like the weirdness of that strange non-specificity. But thank you. I'm glad you guys like it. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm trying to take my time with it. You know, I came up with the visuals pretty quickly. Like, I think the only other sketch I had was... Oh, whoops, that's the wrong layer. I did, like, this little drawing. And, like, that was pretty much it, though. Like, that was my exploration process. So then I did this, like, T-pose and, like, back pose just to, like, so I could understand, you know, see in my... Because I can see it in my own head, but it's good to have it on paper, too. So I just understand it a little bit better. And then these were, like... Well, we'll get to this later, but, like, these were, like, some of... This is what I was doing first, where I was doing a first stage that's just, like, a little burning log. And I came up with this kind of face where it's, like, cut into its face is, like, part of its face. And it kind of looks like a nose, it kind of looks like a mouth, and I was like, oh, I really like that. And then I started thinking about the cut, you know, cuts into wood, and how that could make for a cool head, but also for this cool arm. So, that's sort of my general thought process here. No, it's not a legendary, but I was thinking about maybe making it the pseudo-legendary. Like, it feels powerful, right? Like, it feels like a very strong Pokemon. I was thinking maybe I could make it the pseudo-legendary, and maybe have 2 pseudo-legendaries? Because I had another idea for a pseudo-legendary, although I might make that into the legendary. I after the Bigfoot video, I was thinking how a Sasquatch Pokemon might be pretty fun. And I know that, you know, the Hahbah region is East Coast, and a lot of the original Bigfoot sightings happened on the West Coast and in Canada and stuff, but... You know, the thing about Bigfoot is that people say that they see it everywhere. Anywhere there's forests, people have had Bigfoot sightings. And, like, if you go up to, like, Maine or Vermont, like, there's Bigfoot stuff everywhere. Like, Bigfoot is pretty universal. If you live anywhere where there are, like, temperate forests, you know, pine barrens, anything like that, like, there'll be Bigfoot merchandise, Bigfoot sightings, Bigfoot culture. So I was thinking about making Bigfoot, and I was thinking about making it a pseudo-legendary, but now I'm kind of thinking I have an idea for the legendaries of this region. Weirdly, one of the legendaries, like, visually, the like, visual themes of one of the legendaries I wanted to make was, like, was a seagull. Like, I know that sounds silly, as, like, a seagull legendary, but... You know, because I feel like most people think of seagulls as just kind of like nuisances and pests. and they're very non-specific to any one part of the world. They live everywhere. But, like, I don't know. I think seagulls are really cool, and I think there's a lot you can do with the base template of, like, a marine bird, like a seagull. You know, like, seagulls and then, like, gulls and marine birds in general, like oceanic birds, albatross, terns, gannets, all those birds. And then I was thinking of kind of like the general themes of the Hahbah region. You know, Pokemon likes to have these kind of like this duality, you know, this dichotomy between two different themes, you know, past and present, truth and ideals, time and space, land and sea, sun and moon. And I was thinking about, for the Hahbah region, a dichotomy between isolationism and what was the other? Isolationism versus, I had a good word for it. You know, culture, not culture, but not society, not community. Isolationism versus community. Which I feel like is a great theme for New England in general, because depending on where you are in New England, there's either thriving cultural communities, you know, in like the big cities and stuff, or even small towns, or there are these people that just want to hide from everything, and they live out in the suburbs, or they live out, you know, in the middle of nowhere out in New Hampshire or something. And so I like that theme, and it kind of works with Bigfoot. Like, if Bigfoot is one of the legendaries, or a Bigfoot-inspired design, that would be the isolationism. And then the seagull would work really well for community. The seagull lives in these huge groups. They travel all over the world. They're very social. They're very gregarious. They get out. They're brave. They mingle with other animals. They mingle with humans. And specifically, the fact that they travel so far, I feel like, is also part of it too. They bring stories from other parts of the world. I was telling Claire the other day about how when I was a kid, I had this fantasy about a seagull that would come and meet with me up in, my family used to go on vacations up in Maine, and I'd be like, the seagull's waiting for me and he wants to tell me stories about where he's traveled to. And so, you know, that I don't know, it just feels like it works for me, and the themes that I was thinking of. So, thinking about Bigfoot and a seagull as the two general, like, design motifs of the legendaries for the Hahbah region. But stay tuned on that, because that's not what we're working on right now. not isolationism versus socialism. Not quite. I could definitely do a socialism theme for New England. There's a lot of socialist advocates in the New England area. But we don't have to get political right now. But yeah, that's my ideas so far for the legendaries. And then, yeah, I don't know, up to you guys. I mean, does this feel enough? Like, I wasn't designing it to be a pseudo-legendary, but I think the fact that you guys brought it up, that this kind of looks like a special Pokemon, like, should this be a pseudo-legendary? Yes. Oh, okay. Since you guys are here, I will give you a little teaser for the next Enigmorph video. I want to spend a little time working on the variants. When I first started doing the Enigmorphs, every new Enigmorph design I made had 3 variant forms. It had the default, the rare variant, and then the super rare variant. But I stopped doing them because it was just a lot of work to come up with a design and then the 3 variants for it, and I felt like the variant designs I was making were just not that interesting anymore. So I wanted to, like, give myself a break to, like, just come up with some designs. So I think the next video I'm going to do, I'm going to design a couple of variant forms for the Enigmorphs that I haven't designed variant forms for yet, and maybe go back and look at some of the older Enigmorph designs and revisit their variants as well. So that's the teaser for the next Enigmorph video. Revisiting the variant forms and designing some new ones and maybe touching up some old ones. And maybe touching up some old Enigmorph artwork too. Because, you know, I always do that. I always go back and revisit my old designs. I've already done it with 2 Enigmorph cycles. Oh, social animals. Bees could also work. A bee legendary, I think, would be really cool. You could do 2 different... Oh, maybe that could be... Oh, okay. Now I'm coming up with other ideas. But maybe that could be... You know how sometimes in Pokemon generations there are, like, non-legendary Pokemon that still kind of embody the themes of the legendaries? Like, I'm thinking about, like, Torkoal, you know, as this Drought Bringer, and Pelipper as the Drizzle Bringer. Although that wasn't the case when the Pokemon first came out. Or like Wailord really reflects, you know, Sharpedo and Camerupt as the bad guys team. Like the bad guy land team has Camerupt, bad guy water team has Sharpedo. So I just now thought of an idea to embody the themes of isolationism versus... I already forgot what I said. Versus... Not socialism, but I gotta write this fucking shit down. But anyway, isolationism versus God damn it! What I literally have to write this down. When I remember what I said, isolationism versus community. Thank you. Isolationism versus community. So, Seagull versus Sasquatch. Okay. Anyway, sorry that my mind is the absolute worst. Isolationism versus community. 2 different bees. We could make like a honeybee Pokemon and a bumblebee Pokemon. Because bumblebees are solitary. They do not live in hives. They do not support massive populations of their same species. They just kind of look out for themselves. Versus honeybees, which actually don't even naturally occur in this part of the world. We brought them over from Europe and Asia and Africa. But anyway, those are social animals. Those animals depend on other members of their family to survive, and I love bees, so I feel like you could make a kind of cool 2 different designs with that. Excuse me. Oh, no, my handwriting is absolutely abysmal. My handwriting literally has not improved since I was in kindergarten. Like, since I first learned how to write, my handwriting has never improved. People used to say that all the time to me. They'd be like, "You're an artist. Why is your handwriting so bad?" I'm like, I don't really think that... I actually can confirm that those 2 things are not related, because I am an artist, and I believe I'm a fairly skilled illustrator, but I've always had terrible handwriting. I think the biggest difference is I don't need to have good handwriting. You know, I don't work in an office. I don't go to school anymore. So I don't need to like show my handwriting to people and have them be able to read it. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe my handwriting would still be bad even if other people depended on being able to read it. But I do think that that's part of it. Because like no one critiques my handwriting because no one really sees my handwriting. I just don't really write in general. You know, I type a lot. I draw a lot, but I really don't write words out all that often. Much to my mother's dismay, I don't really make lists. I don't write letters to people. Right, Panko? Panko can't write either. She's terrible penmanship. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe artists, the better the artist, the worse the handwriting. That's not true though. Claire has lovely handwriting, and I had a professor in college who had the cutest handwriting ever. Like, and I think it's because she's the kind of person who really liked working slow, like paying close attention to detail. I've talked about her before. Her name was Suzanne, and she was an amazing professor. And she does these very detailed pencil drawings of birds. That's like her specialty. And her handwriting was so cute. It literally was like reading an illustrated children's book. And it was funny because I would read her writing on like my you know, her feedback from my work. You know, I hand in an assignment and she gives me written feedback. And a lot of her critiques were pretty scathing. So it would be like the cutest handwriting ever. You're reading it in this like fun, like flighty voice. But it's like, you really need to focus more on your technical skills. You are rushing through these projects. Your presentation was abysmal. But it was the cutest handwriting. So it was like, it was kind of cushioned the blow a little bit there. I mean, handwriting really is an art form, I think. I think that calligraphy and just, you know, fonts in general. I mean, we think about fonts now as just something that you download and use in Adobe or Microsoft Word or whatever. But you know, I mean, fonts are designed. Fonts are created by people, sometimes for legibility, sometimes for, you know, just for an artistic purpose. And I think that just because I don't find it super interesting. It's not that I don't even find it super interesting. It's just not something I would pursue as an artist. I do think that people who design fonts and can design really cool fonts, I think that's a very cool skill. And in fact, you know, I always think about it when I see like logos for like movies or video games, like big titles. I was looking at The Lion King. We watched The Lion King recently, and that is a very iconic font design for that title. You know, just it's very simple, but when you look at it, like, let me see if I can find a higher resolution. Like, it's very simple. It feels regal. It feels important. It feels serious, but it feels triumphant and exciting and important. And this is kind of more different. This feels a little bit more reflecting the mood of the musical, the Broadway musical. God, that's so weird. I think I do need to watch this movie. I'm so curious about the hyper-realistic CGI Lion King. Like compare these two shots. Compare what look like. Don't get me wrong, incredibly impressive CGI, but compare that to the original movie and like the amount of storytelling that is happening between these two characters and their facial expressions. Like, you can tell exactly what's going. Even if you don't know about the Lion King, you can tell exactly what's going on in the scene between these two characters with Scar's face and Simba's face. And then this, I don't like. There's literally nothing happening. Like, this is the same. I'm assuming this is the same scene. This is clearly Scar. He has a giant scar on his face. It looks like they're in the canyon. I'm assuming this is the same scene where Scar's like, "Stay here. I'm gonna go get your dad." Or I'm gonna go get the surprise. I don't know. It's just, it's an interesting experiment, is how I see that. The CGI Lion King movie. I'm always tempted to call it live action. It's not live action. No part of that is alive. It is all CGI. There are no real people or animals in that movie. It's very impressive, very believable CGI. I just don't like why though. Why? CG why? And it does look like a screenshot from that Geo documentary. And I had this sort of revelation when I was watching it. There was one, because I was watching the original Lion King, great movie. And I was, the scene where Timon and Pumbaa and Simba are all lying together. I found, I think, the same scene in this. Okay, so this screenshot from the CGI movie, it something dawned on me. I was like, oh, so because I've been watching a lot of, I have the Disney Plus subscription right now. I've been watching a lot of nature documentaries with Claire, and they're very narrative. A lot of the nature documentaries on Disney Plus, like the Nat Geo stuff, they're very narrative. They like to have a story that is easy to follow for the audience, and they kind of make one of the animals that the camera is following like the main character. And they love moments like this. They love any moment where like two animals that wouldn't normally be interacting are interacting, because that is exciting. It's an interesting thing to see those kinds of interactions in nature. But I was also thinking about how, like, with AI now, and of course the CGI Lion King movie came out way before AI generated video was a thing. But like, you know, people, that kind of content is so popular with AI, where it's like a kangaroo is, you know, puts a dog in its pouch, or like a tiger learns how to play the piano and a dog is howling along. Like all of these like fake videos of animals interacting and doing cute things, like that's really popular. And it's always been popular, just now people make it fake. And I was realizing that like this movie, like that's kind of what they were going for. Like they were trying to create these scenes where it felt like this could be real. Like visually, like the CGI in this, like, you know, maybe the more you look at it, the more you're like, okay, it's not real. And also like the fact that these three animals would be lying together like this seems impossible. But like other than that, and maybe the way that Timon is sitting, other than that, like, this seems like, oh, wow, that's real. Like, your grandma would find this on Facebook and go like, oh, look at this, look, they got, it's like Timon and Pumbaa and Simba in real life. And, like, people love that. I mean, just think about how popular it was to make Mario look hyper-realistic, or to make a Pokemon look hyper-realistic. Like, people really like that. And I think that was, like, their goal, to try to create these moments in the film that looked believable, that looked like they could be shots from a documentary, and have that be like the hook. Like, what if this did really happen? What if these three animals actually did get along? But it's like, this is like maybe the most expressive I've seen any of the characters from this movie in any screenshot. But like, they can't emote, they can't laugh like a human does, they can't raise their eyebrows like a human does. They just made them too realistic. And like, I'm not saying that like animals don't emote. They absolutely do. And like, you can tell like when a cat is upset or scared or interested or hungry or mad. But like, there's a huge difference between this and that. Because lions don't make faces like this. Lions don't have eyes that look like that. They don't like smirk with one eyebrow raised. You know, they just don't do that. That's something that only a human could create an animal doing. And I'm not saying this isn't impressive. I'm just saying it's like, it's a totally different thing. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like, there's still this stigma where it's like, animated movies are for kids. I think that's definitely changed over the years. I think, especially now that kids who grew up in a time where animated movies were very, very popular, in the 90s and the early 2000s, were going to an event like The Lion King was a big deal. Not necessarily that it wasn't just for kids, but that it was a really big deal. Those people are now making movies. And I think they have it in their head that, these movies don't just have to be for kids. They can be kid-friendly, but they're not necessarily for kids. And, of course, the problem with that is that, if you're going to take the risk and make your animated film a little bit more adult, it might not perform as well. And that's really the big risk, right? Because things have to make money in this world. But I do think it's shifting a little bit, and there are movies that are, again, like family-friendly movies, but not necessarily for kids. Like Spider-Verse, that is a film. Both of the Spider-Verse films, they're definitely designed to be kid-friendly. There's no gratuitous violence, although there are some on-screen deaths. A character does get shot. Character gets crushed to death. I guess they're not on-screen. The moment of death is not on-screen, but it does happen on-screen. But, the themes of the movie are a little bit more adult. And I mean, the main character is a high school kid, so, it definitely appeals to young people. But they're complicated themes. It's a complicated story being told. And, like with animation in general, a lot of people discredit comic books and superheroes as, just for kids. And, they lack depth and sophistication. But I think, again, that's just incorrect. I think that comic books have always been stories that anyone can enjoy and that have lasted as long as they have, because even though you're a kid when you discover them, maybe, as an adult, you still enjoy them. There's still something for you to enjoy as an adult experiencing these stories. And I think that, that's evident in the way a lot of movies are directed. We watched The Prince of Egypt. In one night, actually, we watched The Prince of Egypt, The Lion King, and Brother Bear. 3 great movies. But The Prince of Egypt really struggled balancing the heaviness of the story, the Bible story of Moses, against the audience that they felt had to be pretty young because it was an animated movie. And so they had these kind of forced musical numbers and comic relief characters and funny little moments that felt very formulaic for the Disney movie formula, but really detracted from a lot of the heavier moments in the movie. And I think that if they had just stuck to it being an adult movie that was maybe, I don't know, it's also not super kid-friendly. A lot of stories from the Bible, children die in that movie en masse. It's the Bible story of Moses, so God brings down all of these plagues against the Egyptians, and the last one is he kills every firstborn in the kingdom of Egypt unless you mark your door with the blood of a lamb. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And if it wasn't in the Bible, I think a lot of Christians would say that sounds pagan as shit. But that's the Bible. A lot of sacrificing, a lot of blood, a lot of dead children. And that's how the movie starts. The movie starts with the Pharaoh killing all of the Israelites' babies. And so it's not really a story for kids, but they felt like they had to make it for kids because it was an animated film. And the fact that it was animated was a great choice because it's such the setting, the characters, the symbolism used in the film. Making that animated means you have a really, really beautiful movie. And it's an absolutely stunning movie visually. But it really suffers from those moments where, they felt obliged to have some characters sing or make a stupid joke, or, you know, run around like goofballs. Like, there are these comic relief characters that are voiced by Steve Martin and Martin Short, and like, they're so not funny. Not the actors. I'm not a huge Steve Martin fan, but like, I'm not saying the actors themselves aren't funny. It's just the characters were not funny. And I didn't understand why they were in the movie at all. But then I did understand, because I was like, oh, they need to be in the movie because Timon and Pumbaa are in the movie, or because Mushu is in the movie, or because, you know, what's the character from Hercules, you know, Danny DeVito, Phil. You know, like Disney has this formula where you have your comedy, your comedic relief characters, and they sort of balance out the heavier moments. And like, in some movies it really works. Like, Timon and Pumbaa are comic relief characters, but they also play a role in the story. They are this alternative lifestyle for Simba, where instead of accepting his responsibilities as a king and facing, you know, the trauma of his childhood, they say, hey, just relax, chill out, eat bugs, and burp and fart all day. And so, like, yes, they are funny, yes, they are silly, yes, they are comic relief, but they're comic relief with a purpose. They fit into the story in an important way. They're not just kind of crammed in for the sake of telling jokes when the scene gets a little too heavy. Whereas, like, that, and then I think another example of what I'm talking about is actually a Disney movie, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Again, a very adult story with a lot of very adult themes. And unfortunately, it really suffers from feeling like it has to have these moments where the wisecracking gargoyles are making jokes and singing silly songs, and it's just so tonally inappropriate for the moment when it happens that it's just like, it actually detracts from the scene. Like, the song from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where, like, literally the city is on fire, Paris is burning, and the fucking gargoyles, like the Jason Alexander, George Costanza gargoyles, starts singing a stupid song about how ugly Quasimodo is. Like, it's just, it ruins the moment. And, like, everything else about The Hunchback of Notre Dame is very beautiful, but I think that, like, that feeling like they had to have these comic relief characters really took away from it. And then I think that Brother Bear, which is one of my favorite Disney movies, is kind of a good middle ground. Where, again, like, they have comic relief, that there are silly moments, it's definitely trying to be kid-friendly, but it handles some pretty heavy adult themes. And, like, you know, the main plot is really focused around death and specifically killing. So it's like, it's heavy stuff. But they don't really... There's never a point in Brother Bear where the drama and the intensity of a scene is cut short by a comic relief character that feels like they have to break the tension. The heavy moments are allowed to be heavy. The sad moments are allowed to be sad. The adult themes are allowed to shine through unencumbered. And again, there are comic relief characters. I think the Mooses, Rut and Took, I think they're actually very funny. I think they play an important role in the film. Again, they are kind of a foil to the main characters and their relationship with one another. You know, the Mooses, the comic relief Mooses, are actual brothers. They're goofy throughout the entire movie, but they have this sort of B-plot that's happening behind the scenes where they have kind of some tension between one another, as brothers do. And at the emotional climax of the movie, after Kenai tells Coda that he killed his mother, and Coda feels like he cannot forgive his brother, there's a comic relief moment where the two moose show up and they're fighting between one another as brothers, and the one moose says to the other, I can never forgive you, and then the other one says, I can change. And again, that's the whole theme of the movie, that people can change and grow, literally and figuratively. And they forgive one another, and Koda witnesses all of this, and that is his, as us watching in the audience, we understand that that's Koda's revelation, that like, yeah, my brother messed up, but I am willing to forgive him because I love him, because he's my brother, and he's proved to me over the course of the movie that he loves me too. And so yes, there is a comedic moment, but it is important to the movie, and it doesn't detract from the intensity of that specific scene. But it does lighten it a little bit. It does lighten it so that we in the audience don't feel so depressed, because that is a really sad emotional climax to that movie, and it made me very, very sad when I was a kid. With the Phil Collins singing in the background. All right, I see a question here. If your answer question, I got a concept for a whale that can captured in a pail, and I'm struggling to make the design work. How would you incorporate that in? I don't know. That's very cute. I like that idea. I'm picturing. I think the key to that design, and since we're talking about Fakemon and whales, it's hard not to picture Whalmer. But I do think that part of what makes Whalmer such a successful and cute design is that it really stylizes the anatomy of a whale. Like, Whalmer does not look like a whale, but it does give off whale vibes. Like, it's enough like a whale that any human who is familiar with the concept of a whale will be like, oh, it's like a whale ball. So I think what you need to do is really try to abstract the shape of a whale. I think a fun interaction to have between two shapes is the sort of rigid immovability of a pail, right? Either it's plastic or metal, whatever. That is solid. That does not move or change shape, when weight is applied to it. But the whale does. The fat of the whale kind of spills over the sides of the bucket, or maybe its bottom half is kind of squeezed in there, and it's all of the weight of its bottom half is being pushed up into the top half, So a fun interaction between the rigidity of the pail and the fluidity of the body of the whale, and really stylize that whale character, that Fakemon, so that it, can exaggerate how, maybe you could even do a muffin kind of shape. I'll just real quick, there's the pail, right? Solid geometry, and then the whale is kind of spilling over the top of it like a muffin. It's got little eyes there, and there's its little blowhole, and its fins are sticking out. Kind of looks like a blobfish too. And don't feel limited to just whales. Incorporate some, if you find, like I said, this kind of looks like a blobfish. Maybe incorporate some blobfish imagery into there too, and really have fun with the shapes of that. But that's sort of what I'm picturing when you say a whale stuck in a pail. This almost gelatinous whale form. It's kind of spilling out of a bucket. Hope that helps. I find something that really helps me with Fakemon designs is to simplify your concept. I was talking about this at the beginning of the stream because this Fakemon that I'm working on right now is a good example of this. But when you're working on a Fakemon design, it's tempting to get very specific with your inspiration. A whale or the exotic pet trade, like very complicated themes. And I think what's important as an illustrator in general, but especially in Pokemon designs, is to have some faith in your ability as an illustrator and your audience to have the confidence to say that my theme might not be understood literally by everyone, but it's there and you can see it if you know what to look for. So if you want to have some complicated theme like the exotic animal pet trade, and talk about that with your character design, don't feel like you have to be super literal with it. Don't feel like you have to include this image and that image and this kind of visual and this part of the design so that there is no ambiguity about the design. Sometimes it's a little bit more fun to look at a design and say, I like this design, and then have someone else say, oh yeah, that's actually it's supposed to be talking about the exotic pet trade. And then you go, oh, whoa! And then there's a whole other layer that unlocks once you realize that. So don't feel like you have to put all of your ideas into a literal image. You can have some faith that your ability to convey these ideas will show through in your final design, even if that is not as direct as you feel like it needs to be. And I know I feel the exact same way about my art all the time, where it's like, I'm worried people aren't going to get it. And it's like, yeah, some people won't. And sometimes even the most beautiful pieces of artwork that are out there, including film media and TV shows and stuff and comic books, like, even if to us as fans of those things, we see those themes that the creators were including intentionally, some people just don't. Like, some people just don't see that. So sometimes it's better to be a little bit more abstract, to be a little bit artistic, I should say. Artistic. Sometimes it's good to be a little autistic too, but I said artistic, so that, there is a visual that can attract people and get people excited before they hear the deeper meaning behind it. So don't get too hung up on being literal with your concept. That's my advice. Sometimes the curtains are just blue. Exactly. So, if you're just joining, I'm working on a Fakemon design. The general concept for this design was really just campfire, bonfire, charcoal, burning wood. I was thinking about how we don't really have any fire types in the Hahbah region yet, other than the starters. I don't think I've made any fire types yet, other than the starters. And so it started with thinking about some, like all the designs for the Hahbah region, things about New England that I love. I love camping. I love the outdoors. I love being outside. And then I was like, oh, campfires. That kind of is a fun starting point concept for a Pokemon. And I started doing, I started with the first form, where I created this weird, I had a bunch of sketches of this thing, like a bunch of little weird designs that I was kind of exploring, of like a little log with like a tiny little flame. Kind of looks like cheese. This one kind of looks like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. What's the Shake? Isn't it kind of looks like Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force? But anyway, I didn't really settle on a design for this, but I liked this like cut shape that I made into it, like someone started chopping into it with a hatchet. And so then I started thinking about a final form, and then I moved over to a final evolution because I just had these ideas for like these hollowed out log arms that shot fire out of them, but were also cut at certain intervals so that they could bend, like those wooden snake toys. I was talking about that. And then, I don't know, the beak, I I don't know, I just sort of added the beak. There was no reason for the beak other than I thought it looked good. Because like I had this fire coming out of the head and it kind of looked like plumage from a bird, so I was like, oh, I could have like a little beak face. I couldn't figure out what I was gonna do with the face, so I just gave it a beak, and I was like, oh, that works actually. Yeah, I'm either gonna make it grass fire or maybe just fire. I feel like I have a lot of dual types in the region, and I think it's because kind of like what I was just talking about, where like my concept is a little bit more convoluted, so I feel like I have to have a more specific typing to reflect that. But then the other thing I was talking about is this wasn't the intention when I started designing it, but it kind of feels like a pseudo-legendary, or at least like, you know, an important Pokemon. So I might make it a pseudo-legendary. I don't really know. And if I make it a pseudo-legendary, I feel like Grass Fire would be a good type for a pseudo-legendary. I also just feel like, you know, because Grass Fire is one of those type combinations where people get really excited about it, and we didn't have a Grass Fire Pokemon until Gen 9. I feel like that just this is another cool way to make a Grass Fire type. You know, one of those type combinations that seems, you know, so contrary that it's hard to design around. I think spicy peppers is a good concept. I know, kind of controversial execution. I don't really know anyone who really likes Scovillain's design, you know, visually. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it. And so this is like another potential grass fire design, you know, burning wood. I do like Mega Scovillain. I wasn't expecting a Mega Evolution for Scovillain so quickly, but I do think...
Thanks for that, tough guy.
I think that's what a lot of people wanted for Scovillain. What I do like about Scovillain is how weird it is. Like, I was talking about that. Like, I like weird Pokemon. Case in point, like, this is a weird Pokemon design. Like, there's no specific real-world equivalent to this Pokemon. And I like that. I love Pokemon designs like that. I love your Magmars and your Kangaskhans and your Chanseys. Even like something like Tropius, like, you know, Tropius, you can say, well, it's like it's a sauropod, but it also has wings and no tail and fruit growing from its neck. Like, the body plan is inspired by a sauropod, but it's certainly not any real kind of sauropod, any specific kind of sauropod. I like designs like that. Beldum, like, what the fuck is Beldum? Like, that's just a concept, you know. There's no real world equivalent to a Beldum. I know they say it's like its brain is like a supercomputer, but what is its body? Its body is like parts of like a mech. It's just a cool idea, and I love that. And they don't really make Pokemon like that so much anymore. Their Pokemon more and more are like specific things. You know, they get very specific with it. I'm trying to think of an example of a new Pokemon that's like so weirdly non-specific. It reminds me of old gen Pokemon. But like even like Spidops is like very specific kind of spider. I guess like Charcadet, that line, it's not really any one thing. Like it's armor and a sword. That's also a good example of what I was talking about earlier about how there are like Pokemon within a generation that aren't legendaries but sort of mimic the visuals or themes of the legendaries. You know, Armarouge and Ceruledge are both, you know, Scarlet and Violet. I guess Tinkatuff, you know, Tinkaton, that whole line is not really anything specific. It's just like a little guy with a hammer. And I'm not saying, like, designs like that are explicitly better. Like, I love Satitan, even though it's just like a land whale. I think that's a really great design. But it does, you know, it's a whale. It's a whale that doesn't look like any real whale, but it is a whale. And like Garganical, like that's a really cool, like, it's salt, but it's a salt monster. In DDD, I don't like that design, but it isn't, it's not really anything. Like, it's supposed to, like, be reminiscent of a butler. But, you know, its design itself there's nothing specific. I don't know. I like designs like that. Duraludon, that's a good example. Duraludon is not really any one thing. It's just a steel dragon. Like, it felt like the concept behind Duraludon was just steel dragon type. And they came up with this weird asthma inhaler looking motherfucker. And then Arcualudon, Archaludon? What's its evolution called? Archaludon? Arcualudon? That thing is pretty clearly a bridge. But I wonder, like, I really wonder how many, like, when they designed Duraludon, did they think they were gonna give it an evolution, or did they just decide in, like was the design for Archaludon, was that like lying around at the Game Freak offices since Sword and Shield came out, and they just decided not to release it until Scarlet and Violet? And the same thing with Hydrapple. Like, do they always plan on having another split evolution with 2 stages? Or was like that like a completely different concept? At first, was it just going to be a 3-stage line, Applin, Dipplin, and Hydrapple, and then instead they did a split evolution, and then they were like, actually, let's keep Dipplin and Hydrapple. Ice-Q is great, but, like, you know, obviously physiologically it's a penguin. But he's definitely weird, and I love him. And then there are like Pokemon, like Crab Brawler, where it's like, you know, it's a very specific animal. Like, this is a coconut crab without any doubt. But it's a great design because coconut crabs are awesome, and I love how they turned it into a little boxer. Like, I love Crab Brawler. This is like one of my favorite Pokemon designs out there. And honestly, Crabominable I've been warming up to that too. So, like, I'm not saying that Pokemon designs that are very non-specific to any real-world thing are better. Like, like Aurorus. I love Aurorus. I love Clawitzer, again, based on a very specific real-world animal. But it's a cool, you know, Pokemonification of that. But again, like, you look at Magmar and it's like, what is the real-world equivalent of Magmar? And there's nothing. Like, some people are like, oh, it's a blue-footed booby because its Japanese name is Boober. But, like, no, it's not. It's just so not. The only thing about it that maybe looks like a booby is the fact that it has a beak. It is strange, though, that its Japanese name is Boober. Yeah, oh, Remoraid turning into an... I know people complain about that all the time. I love that Remoraid just turns into an octopus. Because the concept is not fish or octopus. The concept is underwater gun. Like a water gun. And so, like, what does a water gun evolve into? An octopus tank, obviously. And so, like, that is... the evolution is not a physiological or a biological evolution. It's a conceptual evolution. And that's also why I love, like, Clamperl. Like, obviously, Clamperl and even Huntail and Gorbis, they're based on specific real-world animals. But, like, I love how weird that is. Like, only in Pokemon would a sentient Clamperl evolve into, you know, a deep-sea... two different kinds of deep-sea predators that are fish. You know, explicitly fish. I love stuff like that. And so that's why I'm making this weird fucker. Like, he's, you know, he's not really anything. He's just sort of a wood monster. With firearms. I still need a name for this guy, by the way. So if you guys have any ideas while I'm streaming here. I have no ideas for names. Based off of a Karura humanoid fire-breathing bird. Okay, let me look up a Karura. Let me see if this fan theory holds any water. Okay, I looked up Karura and I found a Naruto character. Oh, I see here. It's a yokai. Oh, that's pretty cool. I guess there's also a Naruto character named Karura. Now the fun part. Now we get to... I have an idea for the shiny already. Burnt wood. I'm gonna leave its smoke plume black, but I want to make like the charred marks and the beak red. I think that would look really cool. This should actually be a little lighter. Put that down to 60%. Excuse me. Is that too easy? Is it too easy to make the fire blue? I mean, I know it'll look cool. But is that like... I don't know, is it too... Let's just see. Because, like, yeah, blue fire is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I like pink fire. Well, let's see. Let's change... I want to make the charred parts of the wood red. Instead of adjusting that. Let's do this. Do the old overlay technique. Green fire? That might look nice with the red beaks. Let's try a green fire.
Thanks for that, tough guy.
To edit a few bits of this like that. Make it look less like it's glowing, because that's not the vibes we're going for there. We are not going for the glowing. And then we'll change the fire to make it red and see if that looks sweet as. Have to redarken the eye here. Lighter. Also would change the hue of the... make that a little warmer. I don't know if I like that actually. I'm actually going to leave that alone. Alright, let's see if the fire looks cool or if it's green. That's pretty cool. Is it too Christmassy? Because that's the tricky thing about red and green. What about like a bluer green? Maybe not quite as saturated. A little brighter. I think I think it's gonna be grass fire. I'm not entirely sure yet. To be honest, I don't know yet. I might just make it fire. I think if I make it a pseudo-legendary, I'll make it, grass fire. Red was also green. Well, that looks kind of nice. Actually, I do kind of like that. Actually, yeah, I kind of like just the full green. And especially if it is going to be a grass fire type. I think that would look pretty cool. Like a bluish green. Almost like jade. Make it a little brighter. Yeah, I like that. I'm a fan of that. I'm a big fan of that. Okay. I need a name for that thing, so think about names, because I got nothing. Charcoal, carbon, maybe something with carbon. Carbon log. Logs, fire starter, ember, stuff like that. And now let's go back to the first form, because I think of the sketches I did, I think this little fucking weirdo was my favorite. But I feel like it's not quite what I want yet. Make it a little have a little more of like this narrow body, kind of tapers down. A little less balanced. Oh, and maybe since I have like a bird motif, I could almost give it like wing shapes here. Kind of like a totem looking thing. That actually kind of looks like a bird's beak too. Like that. And actually, maybe the top of the head is like charred. That's all kind of like a blackish color. Flame on his head. Actually, yeah, I like this. I like this little weirdo, like that. Weird little weirdo. Well, the fire on the head actually kind of ruins the silhouette a little bit, I feel like. Charbora is pretty good. Actually, I like that a lot. It's kind of like, and it kind of sounds like Belbora. Little Enigmorph reference there. Charboreal, maybe? It's too long. A little shorter. That.
Thanks for that, tough guy.
Maybe he's not even on fire. Maybe he's just charred. He's a piece of charcoal. I have no idea what I'm going to name the first form. I have no name for the first form. I have no name for the final form. I don't even have a design for the middle form yet. Wait a minute. Actually, kind of like the belly log. Let's try one that has separated the head from the body. Let's also bring over our final form. Ooh, charling. I like charling. Charling could be good for the first form. I have to hide this. So the thing is, I still do my formula for the Fakeamon videos where, like, I do them in order from first stage to last stage, you know, when I present them in the video. But I don't always design the first stage first, like in this case. So I have to, if I put, you know, the final stage on my canvas as a reference, I have to kind of put it in a spot that will be easy for me to hide it when I go to edit the video. Because I don't want to spoil what the final form will look like. Kind of like that, where it's got a head and a body. Definitely makes it a lot more charming. We got jokes here. We got funnies. Also kind of looks like a marshmallow, which fits into the campfire theme. Ah, Tomodachi Life. I've been tempted. I think I might get Tomodachi Life the next time I'm with my sisters.
I'm tempted too.
I think it would be a fun thing to play with my sisters, don't you?
Definitely.
We could make, like, every person we know. I think that might be fun. It's $60 though, right? Like,
Probably.
at the very least. So I'm not too tempted. That's some serious buckaroonskis there. I still haven't bought Jurassic World Evolution 2, and that is much higher on my wanted games list. Okay, this is way cuter. Having a clearly defined head. It's not playable on Switch 2? That can't be right. I thought all Switch games were compatible with the Switch 2. All Switch games. Did I say that? Not all games. All Switch games. I thought, but maybe I'm mucho incorrecto. Okay, I like this. And I actually don't even think... Like, I feel like having the fire on its head actually detracts a little bit. Like, it's a little too much. I think maybe I'll just omit the fire on its head and have some reds, like, in the eyes. And maybe on the little, like, wing things coming out of its head. Alright, I'm gonna be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. But I'll be right back. Enjoy talking about Monster Hunter. I was gonna say that. I was like, I'm pretty sure I let him in.
Yeah, no, I guess I clicked on the wrong thing. No, I was just trying to update my mom because she was,
Yeah.
you know.
Figures. Did you tell her that it's not very hot out?
I did.
So we're okay,
She
Ma.
was worried.
Alright. I'm back. We found out the other day here in Rhode Island we had a really hot day. And we found out on that day that our air conditioner had stopped working over the winter. So today we had a guy come over and look at it. He says it's just a part that needs to be replaced. And it's covered by our warranty because we just bought this AC last year. He also told us, and this would have been helpful a year ago when we bought this thing, but because it's a through the wall AC unit, you know, it's not a window AC unit, because the condo that we live in has those sleeves. I mean, we could buy an in the window AC unit, but it would just be a pain in the ass. As much as a pain in the ass as any AC unit is. But anyway, because it's a through the wall AC unit, it has, you know, the sleeve that goes around it. And apparently those sleeves are designed by certain manufacturers for certain models of air conditioning units. And we bought an LG when the sleeve was designed for a GE. So that's not the problem. Fortunately, that's not the reason why we're having a problem with our AC, which is good because I don't want to have to deal with that. That seemed like a big issue, replacing the fucking sleeve on that thing. That's like a whole thing. But fortunately, we don't have to do that. Is it just me, or is this design is kind of giving like an Invader Zim. Like it doesn't look like Invader Zim, it just kind of looks like a character from Invader Zim. Doesn't it kind of look like a character from Invader Zim? I think it's like the flat top of the head and like the kind of grumpy looking eyes. I feel like is giving Invader Zim a little bit. Boy, Invader Zim is still popular, huh? Like I still see, like when I was a kid, between the years of like, I want to say like 2007, 2008 through like 2014, and I guess until this very day, like the Gur hoodies, like everyone had those. Like if you were like, not everyone, but like if you were, you know, in the alt crowd, if you were goth or emo or just, you know, an internet kid, mostly girls. I feel like it was mostly girls wear the Invader Zim stuff. But I really thought that, I mean Invader Zim is not on anymore. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't watch Cartoon Network, so maybe they show reruns. But as far as I know, like, I don't think people actually watch Invader Zim. But I do think that people still, I still see those like Gur hoodies. It's just a timeless classic. I never watched Invader Zim as a kid. I didn't have Cartoon Network at home, so I missed out on a lot of influential media, as it later turned out to be. But I did watch it in college because I had a roommate who was really into it, and she showed me the way of Invader Zim. I didn't really like it. She showed me so many cartoons. Like when I was in college, I got all my friends like kind of caught me up on all of the cartoons that I missed growing up. Like I watched some cartoons. Like I had, you know, my mom didn't have cable. We didn't have cable in our house, so we didn't have a lot of the channels like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. But we did have 4Kids, Kids WB. So we had like Teen Titans and Ninja Turtles. There was some Pokemon. I think One Piece was even on that back in the day. They had like a 4Kids dub of One Piece that was like a little bit more kid friendly. Not that One Piece isn't really all that adult to begin with, but I'm sure they censored some of the dialogue, some of the weirder, less child-friendly dialogue. But no Invader Zim. And I remember I had a lot of friends, as is often the case at college, and specifically in art college, a lot of people who were into a lot of cartoons, even as, you know, adults. And so I got schooled on Regular Show, which I had never seen before. I liked that. I liked Regular Show. I thought that was funny. Flapjack. I remember my friends showed me Flapjack for the first time when I was in college. I liked that one too. What else? There were some obscure ones like My Gym Partner is a Monkey. That one wasn't as good. I didn't like that one so much. They showed me Ed, Edd and Eddy. That's vintage now. That's like, I do not think Ed, Edd and Eddy has stood the test of time. That's like, if you watched Ed, Edd and Eddy growing up, you are my age. Like, you just there's just no getting around it. Like, I do not think that Ed, Edd and Eddy, like, it was really popular when I was a kid. I knew of it, but I do not think it still has any cultural significance with the youths. Oh, they gave Sanchi a lollipop instead of a cigarette. Yeah, little censors like that. Whoa, that's crazy. That's weird. That's a weird thing to hear. But yeah, I guess our YouTube channel's been around for like, this year it's gonna be 8 years. So wow, that's pretty crazy. We've been growing up together then, because I think about when I started this YouTube channel. I mean, I was 21, I think, when I started this channel. So, or not this channel, because this is Subject TV, but I was 21 when I started Subjectively. But here's the thing. You're always learning. You're always growing. And especially when you're 21, you are just... I mean, it depends on the person, but most people just are not adults yet. Like, you can drink alcohol legally, you can drive legally, you can have sex legally, but that doesn't make you an adult, per se. It certainly didn't make me an adult. I have grown a lot since I first started this YouTube channel. So we've been growing up together. Just different stages of growth. I watched YouTube when I was 11. I mean, when I was 11 years old, YouTube was very, very different. YouTube was not owned by Google. There were no ads. Can you imagine that? An ad-free YouTube? When they added ads to YouTube, that was like, people were so pissed. But it also created a lot of opportunities for independent creators to just make their own content and make money on it. I remember people would even get pissed back in the day, like really like 2009, 2010. People would get pissed if like a YouTuber like had like an integration, like an ad sponsor in their video. Like that was unusual for a YouTuber to be like, hey, you should go check out this game, or check out... I remember JonTron way back in the day. He was like one of the first people I saw doing Audible ad integrations in his videos. And people were like pissed. They were like, I can't believe you're selling out like this just for $1. You waste our time with an ad integration for Audible. But now it's like standard. Like now it's like you can hear like... Maybe it's because I'm a YouTuber, but like when I'm watching a YouTube video and I hear like a slight tone shift, I'm like, okay, here comes the ad integration. Like, I can tell bro is about to tell me about NordVPN. But yeah, it's like, it's so standard now. But way back when, the idea of ads in a YouTube video was unheard of. I remember watching like Equals 3. Excuse me. Equals 3. That was one of my favorites. You know, Ray William Johnson. I think he's still around. I think he still makes content. I don't think he makes YouTube videos anymore, but I think he has like a TikTok. I don't know if he's still making music. I don't know if Your Favorite Martian is still around. And JonTron, I loved JonTron. Ego Raptor, I know Ego Raptor is still around. I don't think he goes by Ego Raptor anymore. But like the original Game Grumps, JonTron and Ego Raptor, good shit. And Community Channel, a little bit of Smosh. Yeah, those are my big ones. And then just like viral YouTube videos. That's the other thing too. Like before TikTok or before, you know, short form media in general, like there were still like obnoxious like internet fads that circulated everywhere and everyone knew about them. But they were like full videos. Like they weren't, some of them were short. But like I'm thinking about like the Narwhal song or the Badger song. A lot of songs. There was a lot of like stupid little songs that were really popular in the early internet. Ho ho ho! Okay, see, we got a boomer in the chat right now. I loved watching Smosh on my Nintendo DS back in the day. Yeah, that is... Ooh. That is vintage. You have just exposed yourself as a gigaboomer, my friend. I hate to tell you. All of China knows You are 30 years old. Maybe not, though. Maybe you're like... You're at least... Ain't no way you are younger than 25, though. Yeah, Candy Mountain. Oh, yeah. Charlie the Unicorn. Oof. See, a lot of those things Oh, you know what? Actually, you know what I found hysterical when I was a kid? Harry Potter Puppet Pals. That... I cracked up. I remember this is how old I am. I remember my babysitter showing me that video. I was probably like 10 or 11. And she had like her iPhone, like a Gen 1 iPhone. That was the other big thing. Like when I was growing up, smartphones were still kind of a novelty. Like smartphones, I think, like the first iPhone, I think was like 2008 or 2007, maybe even earlier than that. But like most people didn't have iPhones unless you were like, it was like, it took a while. It took a while for iPhones to be ubiquitous. Like most people only had iPhones if they were like in business. Like, you know, because they were like Blackberries that were very helpful to, you know, people in finance or in like, you know, who work a lot because you could text, you know, full sentences without having to scroll through. I don't know how old the chat is right now, but like way back in the day, button cell phones, most of them didn't have keyboards. Like I'm sure you're familiar with like a Nokia cell phone, you know, the old ones. Like this is it. So like if you notice, there are letters on each of these keypads. So if you wanted to type out cat, you would have to press 2 2 2 2 to get C, and then you would press 2 2 to get A, and then you would go down here, press 8 8 to get T, and then you could spell out cat. So like smartphones, when smartphones came around, and like Blackberries, like when these first came around, like this was huge because you could, this is a newer one. This is what they used to look like. You know, they had full keyboards on it and you could type things, which was huge. And so like the market for smartphones when they first came out was kind of like this market where like if you had the need to type out full sentences very quickly, write emails and stuff, that's who would buy these kinds of phones. So I remember my aunt had a smartphone. She had an iPhone, like a Gen 1 iPhone, and because she used it for work. But like the idea that YouTube could be on your phone, like that was big. And it's weird because like it changed very quickly. Like it went from like, wow, that's so cool, YouTube on my phone, to everyone has an iPhone in like 5 years. I remember when I started high school, I really wanted an iPhone. My mom wouldn't get me one. But like, not everyone had one. Like a couple of kids had an iPhone. And that was like pretty special. Like, oh shit, you have an iPhone? Like that was special. Or like maybe one kid had like a Droid. And so like, it was still becoming popular. But then very quickly, everyone had one, and it went from like something that business people had to do business to everyone had to do everything. And it's like, you know, on the one hand, I do love being able to just be like, I'm confused about something, let me look it up on my phone. But on the other hand, like, oh look, a combi. My point that I was going to make before I got distracted by my phone was that smartphones are incredibly addictive. It is really easy to just open your iPhone and just zone out and catch Pokemon. But I think Pokemon Go is a good use of smartphone technology. I think that's a fun way to interact with the world. But I'm biased because I like Pokemon. But anyway, my point is that there are ups and downs to this change in technology. Yeah, I had not a flip phone, but I had something chocolate. wasn't this. Slide keyboard phone 2010. Yeah, it was this or something like this. I had one of these phones my first up until my freshman year of college. Yeah, it kind of looked like this. And then my sister actually had a smartphone. My younger sister had a smartphone, and I got her smartphone after she bought a new one. So I got like a hand-me-down iPhone, and it wasn't until just like, I want to say like 4 years ago that I bought my own cell phone, my own iPhone, that I still have. Oh, is that the Mega Man X ports? I remember I played those for the first time recently. Now, actually, interestingly enough, going back to YouTube content that I liked as a kid, Egoraptor, you might know him better as Aaron Hannon, I believe that's his name. But, you know, the guy from Game Grumps. He had like a series, just a couple of videos that he made that were just basically like analyzing video games and game design. And so he had a video on Mega Man X. So I knew a lot about Mega Man X when I was like 12 or 13, but I never played it. And then when I met Claire, I remember going to her mom's house, and she had her old copy of Mega Man X that was ported for the PSP. Do they still make PSPs? Is PSP still a thing? But I played it for the first time. It's actually a super fun game. Definitely recommend. And I definitely would have loved it as a kid, but I never played it. I wonder what it was like, you know, I was a kid when all this technology was coming out. I wonder what it was like to be an adult with all this new technology. Like, I wonder how different it felt from now, you know, with changes in technologies. Because I feel like there's been a lot of innovation with technology. Like, I'm not a big tech guy, but, you know, just in terms of mainstream technology, there's been a lot of big innovations over the past couple of years. And maybe it's just because I'm an adult right now and I'm more cynical than when I was younger, but like none of them feel as world changing as some of the things that came out when I was growing up. Like generative AI videos just are not really the same thing as the advent of digital illustration. I remember the first year I got a digital drawing tablet. That was exciting. I kind of looking at the colors I've chosen for this, and I kind of want to go back to the final form and make that wood a little reddish. What do you think about taking this wood color? I like that more. I like that a lot more. Yeah, I think slightly redder. Slightly redder is better. It's a little bit more contrast with the lightness of the wood on the inside. Yeah, I like that better. Oh, the other thing I wanted to do was go into the line work here and just change these black lines to red. There's a little less form, a little less solid shape in the fire. Makes it feel a little bit less solid. I like that better. Yeah, doesn't that red look nicer than that kind of desaturated brown? Kind of helps with the fire type a little bit, I think, but it still feels like wood. I was thinking the thing on its back would be just another place it could shoot fire out of. I was thinking it could kind of like rotate on its torso here, so it could like straighten out its arms and shoot fire out of its arms and its back, and just sort of like spin around and just be like a big fire tornado. I'm just gonna take, because I really like that color. Take this color and try to match it a little bit better here. Or I could just color drop. Yeah, I like this way better. But I actually kind of want to make the... No, that's fine. But I like that better. I like those colors better. See, this is why I think it's important not necessarily to design Fakemon from stage 1 to stage 3. I think it can benefit a lot if you're sort of going back and forth between two designs. It makes each one feel a little bit stronger. in terms of design, not in terms of, you know, like competitive viability. It does kind of look like a Mega Man boss, actually. You're not wrong. How many times do I mess around with the design until I go good enough? You know, it used to be, it took me much less time before I said, good enough. I remember I used to, like, crank out, like, a new Pokemon video, like, every week, you know, way back in the day. Now I find it harder to be like, okay, I'm happy with this. I'm not going to work on it anymore. This design, Debut Kate, I'm happy with it, but I would still redesign this. This was definitely one where I had to say, good enough. Like, and it got to the point where, like, the tweaks were so minor that I was like, okay, no, that I just have to move on. But yeah, it took me a really long time to settle on that one. And then that's the other thing too, like, sometimes I'm just like, all right, this is good enough for now. Like, I think sometimes you have to say, I'm happy with this, I'm gonna move on, but maybe I'll come back and visit it later. So, like, you know, sometimes good enough is really good enough for that moment. And you can come back to it later on. I don't know if I have a number that I can say, you know, that's usually when I it's usually an amount of time. Because, like, that's the other thing too, like, I make these Pokemon not just because I enjoy making them, but because I need content for videos. You know, I have, like, ad partners and stuff that I need to deliver on. And so, you know, I have to get a video done and out. So sometimes, you know, I have a design that I'm happy with, and then I have some designs that I'm not so happy with, and I'm like, I'll spend a little bit more time on these designs, but then it's like, there's 2 days before my video deadline, and I'm just like, no, I have to move on. I have to say good enough, just for now. Yeah, I do think that's part of it. I think I've learned a lot about illustration and myself over the years. So, you know, I hold myself to different standards, for better or for worse. A part of me feels like I wish I could just, because, like, the thing is, like, the deadline part of my work is, you know, because I need to make money. So I do what I do to make a living, and whether or not my designs are really good, I have found, or rather I should say, whether or not I really like my designs does not necessarily mean, like, the video is gonna perform better or it's going to have better ad revenue. Like, they're not necessarily, like, directly linked. So, like, in the past, I've made designs that people will say, like, these are phenomenal, and then I don't like them, so I make changes to them, and people are like, wow, I hate this, I liked the original version better. And, you know, either way, like, the views on the video are the same. So, like, part of me wishes I could just be like, just say it's good enough and upload it. But I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not happy with this. I want to keep working on it. But I, you know, it takes up so much of my time. These guys do not have names yet. If you have any suggestions for names, I would greatly appreciate it. Wood boy and log man. That's good. How do you come up with this stuff? That is good. Tonk is a good nickname for it, for sure. Tonk. So, this little guy is a forest-dwelling creature. Lives out in the woods, base of mountains, in little groves where it can hide and stay safe. It is incredibly flammable. The wood that makes up its body does not retain moisture very well. It's very unique in that sense. It's not like real wood. And because of that, if it spends too much time in direct sunlight, or if it's struck by lightning, or even if it rubs up against something, it has a chance, a very good chance, of igniting. Now, this doesn't hurt the Pokemon. It actually is able to control fire due to its fire typing. But it can cause problems to nearby Pokemon. So trainers and Pokemon Rangers work hard to make sure that these Pokemon are closely monitored so that they don't cause any unintentional wildfires. However, in some ecosystems, the wildfires that these Pokemon start actually help balance out the ecosystem. Burns away overgrowth, deposits nutrients and nitrogen back into the soil for new plants to grow. So, rangers don't always stop their fires from starting, but they do make sure that they don't get too out of hand. And if you catch one of these Pokemon for yourself, they are great for outdoor adventures because you can set them alight and they will burn for as long or as little as you'd like them to. After which, you can put them out if you have some water or some sand. And it doesn't harm them. That's the first stage, at least. That's this design that I'm working on right now. The final stage, very strong, very dangerous, reclusive, rare, powerful, uses its large, hollowed-out, log-like arms to channel fire that burns deep within its wooden body out into the environment, burning hot enough to melt rubber, turning sand to glass. Lightning rod would be good. Solar power would be pretty busted on a grass fire type. But solar power does sound kind of good. At least one of its abilities could be solar power. I think it is going to have a middle stage. Like, this feels like too much of a leap to go from this to that. Like, doesn't it feel like it needs something in between? I think there needs to be one other form. So I'm probably going to give it a middle form. I'm going back and forth about the red color on this. I actually kind of like it more if the first stage is a lighter color and the final stage is a darker color. Let me just make it a little darker. Now for the part of the show where Jack overthinks his designs and spends too much time fiddling with details that don't make that much of a difference. Everyone's favorite part of the show. Okay, I think that's a good middle ground. A little bit redder, but a darker color. Ooh, ooh, Tortiki I really like. I really like Tortiki for the first one. I'm locking that in. Making it look like a tiki or like a totem head kind of happened unintentionally, but it actually, that name is too good to not use. I really like Tortiki. Carbon. I do like Carbon in some capacity I like. Car burn kind of sounds too much like a car burning. But it also doesn't sound more ridiculous than some Pokemon names. It's not sillier than Wingull. Like, I feel like some Pokemon names, you know, you hear them now and you're like, yeah, Wingull. Of course, that's great. Everyone knows Wingull. But, like, I feel like maybe the localization team, when they were coming up with the English names for some of these Pokemon, they were like, I don't fucking know, Wingull? It's got wings, it's a seagull. Wingull? Like, it's not an incredibly... How about Carburniferous? That's too long. But like, you know, like trees, Carburniferous. Carburniferous. Maybe not. There might be something there. There's Decidui. So Carburniferous could work. How many letters is that? C-A-R-B-U-R. C-A-R-B-U-R-N. Carburn. No, that's too many letters. Yeah, Talonflame. Flamigo, Seal, Krabby. So, you know, what could or could not be a plausible Pokemon name is, you know, it varies. I'm glad you like Pinup and Shorelug. I was actually very happy. Those were two designs where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna keep it simple. Like, another cute seal Pokemon. I think because I wanted to be sort of like the Route 1 normal type, and those designs are usually pretty straightforward, usually kind of just like cartoon versions of real world animals. So like, you know, I was just like, yeah, cute seals. And then I really did. I realized how the Gen 1 Pokemon design team, which was much fewer people than the way Pokemon games are designed now. But I realized how, you know, how easy it is to just default to giving the characters just horns on their heads to like make them a little less like a cartoon animal. Because like I was drawing Shorelug, like. Pinup was not pretty much just a cartoon seal. But then when I got to Shorelug, I was like, okay, I want this to be a little bit more than just a cartoon seal. And I was like, a horn on its head? Like, it's kind of nothing, but it also kind of works. And like, there was no good reason to give it a horn on its head other than just like, I want something on its head. And like, I tried like some different like tufts of fur at first, but I was like, no, it's gotta be a horn. It's gotta be like a unicorn horn. And I was like, this is kind of stupid, but I like it. Ectoplasma. That's interesting that they didn't feel like Gengar was a name that could be used in the French language. Like, is there something about the name Gengar? Like, because like Gengar, as far as I know, is not like a pun or anything. It's just kind of like a cool sounding name, unless there's something I'm missing out on. But like, I'm surprised that they were like, that doesn't work in French. But yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm recreating Dugong. Just like, because like, I mean, I don't have a big problem with Dugong. I do think it's really funny when people are like, God, they're getting so lazy with Pokemon designs in newer generations. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it was back in Gen 1, where they had such creative designs as Seal and Krabby and Muck. And again, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with those designs. But also, like, I don't know if you could make the argument that those were creative and something like Trubbish isn't. That's the other thing, talking about getting older and being older. It's really interesting being a Pokemon fan almost my entire life and growing up with the franchise and seeing how it changed over the years. You know, people now still complain about Pokemon. Guess what? 20 years ago, they also were complaining about Pokemon. Like, people have always had problems with Pokemon. And I remember Gen 5 is now a lot more popular than it was when it first came out. But, like, people hated the Gen 5 Pokedex. People hated Vanillite. They hated Fungus. They hated the Kling Clang Steel line. They thought that they were lazy and boring. Trubbish was the butt of a lot of jokes back in the day. I remember people being like, yeah, in Gen 6, there's just going to be a lamp Pokemon. And it's like, why not? Like, what's the problem with that? Like, that could be cool. It could also be boring. But, like, I don't know. I think Luxray is boring. I know. Kill me now. I think Luxray is a boring design. I don't think it's a bad design. Like, I often look at Pokemon designs and kind of evaluate them based on how proud I would be if I had come up with that design. And I think the you know, Luxray's, the finished product, I think I would be happy with it. I would be like, this looks good. This looks like a kind of low concept, cool Pokemon that a lot of people would like. But it might be a Pokemon that I like kept trying to redesign and like try to find. But I think it's okay that some Pokemon are a little bit lower concept and just kind of like fun elemental monsters. Like, for some people that's like the cool, and like a lot of my favorite Pokemon are like well, I don't know if my favorite Pokemon are like that, but like, I mean, Tropius isn't really a high concept design. It's just a banana dinosaur. It's just, that's awesome. To me, I love that combination of concepts. That can fly, also it can fly. Oh, the kanji gen, or gen meaning phantasm, probably is where that comes from. Going back to our... Sorry, I'm reading the chat and going back to a conversation we were having earlier about Gengar. And its name. What would I change about Luxray to like it more, to make me like it more? I don't know. I mean, I really like bestial Pokemon. You know, sort of not like Luxray is kind of just explicitly a lion, but it's, you know, it's vague enough that it could be any number of large quadrupedal mammals. I think the designs that I really like that sort of are in that category are like the legendary beast trio, so like Entei, Raikou, Suicune. I like that they're a little bit more ambiguous. Not one of them are like any one specific real-world animal. We have like Raikou is probably most like a tiger, but it also has really big fangs and this like mane of like thunderclouds and very unique patterns on it. This weird like armor on its head, a lightning bolt shaped tail that's like just purple for some reason. Oh no, its tail is blue, its back is purple, its mane is purple. And Entei has this very intricate, almost like carved looking mask face Suicune has a big crystal on its head. Like, I just like that they deviated a little bit more from real-world animals. So, like, I would probably play with Luxray's silhouette a little bit more. I really like... So, I don't like Manectric, but I really like Mega Manectric. I like that Mega Manectric's silhouette is, like, a big lightning bolt. So, like, if I had Luxray, I would probably make its mane bigger. You know, something like... Just to really exaggerate that a little bit more. Maybe I'd give it bigger fangs. And kind of give it more of like an armored kind of look on its head. I'd probably do away with the ears too. I just don't think those are necessary. Maybe even give it like a beard. Or maybe even horns. I don't know. I would just make it look less like an actual cat. Maybe give it like bigger claws. I'd probably get rid of its tail too. But like this is a totally different, like this is something different entirely. But I would like it a lot more if it was just a little crazier, a little less like a real animal, and a little more like, you know, a monster. Like, a lot of people say that, too. They're like, Gen 1 Pokemon designs were real animals. And, like, saying that as if that objectively makes them better designs. And I guess what they mean is I like Pokemon designs that look like real animals. And I like a lot of Pokemon designs that look like real animals, too. But I also think that my favorite Pokemon designs, as we were talking about at the beginning of this stream, I think my favorite Pokemon designs are the ones that don't look like real animals, that have like no real world equivalent to them. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like, even when people say that, like, Gen 1 Pokemon are, like, they're real animals, like, how many of them really are real animals? Like, okay, like, all right, Caterpie, that's a very specific type of caterpillar, fair enough. Butterfree, like, Beedrill, that whole line, Pidgeot, Pidgey, Rattata, sure. Arbok, Fearow. I'm, like, going through the Pokedex right now. But the starters, like, yeah, Charizard is a real animal. You know, dragons, the real animal. Blastoise is a turtle, fair enough. Like, Nidoqueen, that I love that line. I love how they're not really anything. Like, Nidoran, people are like, oh, it's a bunny, you know, with a poison horn and giant spikes on its back that evolves into Baragon. You know, like, Clefable and Clefairy, like, what animals are those? They're aliens. They're literally not of this earth. I like Paras and Parasect, like they're based off of a real-world animal-fungal relationship, but they're not really any one animal. Like, Paras kind of looks like a cicada nymph, but also it's a little bit more of a crustacean, and Parasect, too, has, like, big claws. Diglett and Dugtrio, they're like whack-a-moles, but not real moles. Golduck, I mean, it's a duck, but what the fuck kind of animal is that? And then, like, you have the Machop line. Is the animal there humans? Alakazam, what fucking animal is that? Geodude, my favorite animal, a rock with arms. That's a good animal. Magnemite, the animal. Onix, the animal. Grimer, the animal. Voltorb, the animal. Execute, the animal. Like, how are people complaining about newer generations of Pokemon having inanimate objects as designs when there is literally a Pokemon named Execute that is just eggs? Like, Staryu. I mean, and again, like, a lot of these Pokemon are awesome. Like, I like a lot of these Pokemon. Don't get it twisted. Coughing, yes, my favorite animal. A ball of gas. Mr. Mime. Yeah, you know, that's an animal. Jinx. Oof. Ditto, literally a glob. Porygon, literally not even real. Literally artificial even within the canon of its own universe. And then my favorite animal, Mew, a fetus. That's a good animal. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a very flawed argument to say, like, Pokemon designs are better because they are animal designs. Like, that just... And I've had multiple people say that to me. It's like, I just like when Pokemon were animals. And I'm like, when was that? Because I have been enjoying Pokemon for 25 years now. And I don't ever remember there being a generation where they were just all animals. Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, yeah, I mean, Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, those are technically animals. So what I'm doing now, just to give you a little bit more of an insight into my process, what I like to do is, before I do a final render of the key art, I like to take the design, merge it down all onto one layer, and then take a dark color, pretty desaturated most of the time, and just as a clipping mask, multiply layer onto the singular image, go in and just sort of block out the shadows. All on one layer. So I can sort of figure out a consistent light source for the key art so that when I go in and paint in the colors individually, it's consistent. And that way I don't even have to think about it when I go in and do the final colors. All of this has already been figured out on a much smaller scale. And on a simple Pokemon like this, it doesn't take very long, because there's just not a lot of shapes. And then I go and I do this, and then I do a lighter color, and I do overlay, and then I can kind of block in my highlights. And I use an overlay layer because it interacts with the colors that are below it in a way that creates different hues, not just a lighter version of whatever hue I might be using. A little more texture that way. That. Highlight that edge there. Be a little around the eyes. A little bit there. A little bit there. That could be a little darker though. That. Maybe even a little bit there. There, and then in the eyes themselves, make that a little brighter, a little fiery. The eyes themselves produce light, so there won't be a shadow on there. However, I am going to make this not quite as bright. That. There we go. Now I have all of that sort of mapped out. And that can stay on a separate layer. Yeah, we want to adapt those brushes and change the format so that we can use them for different programs. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. I know people want it for Kita. People want it for what's the other one? Clip Studio. It's just interesting that they use completely different file formats for their brushes in those programs. It just makes it a little difficult.
I mean, they're not coming though.
They're not coming.
We don't have those programs.
Yeah, we don't have those programs.
I would if we could, but I can't guarantee the quality for a program I don't use.
See, now I can just sort of reference my other little thumbnail down there and just paint in the colors. I could even just use the dropper tool to get the exact color. Free alternatives for digital illustration? Yeah, there are plenty. I believe the ones we were just talking about, Clip Studio, I believe that's free. And I don't know about Kita. Now, also, I don't know if you can use these on iPads. I don't know if you're working on an iPad, but if you're saying that you would like to use Procreate, I'm assuming you have an iPad. But these, I think, are, Mac or PC. I used a program called Firefox when I was in college. That's free. Fire Alpaca, yes. Sorry, I realized as I said that, but that's not correct. Fire Alpaca.
Heavy Paint is a free iPad app.
Heavy Paint, Claire is saying. I don't know about that one,
It's
but
a little more geared towards like copying physical media, but it is free.
yeah, there are a lot of free ones out there, depending on what hardware you have to use them on. really, I think the biggest hurdle, actually, now that I think about it, if you're saying you can't afford Procreate, I'm assuming what you actually mean is you can't afford an iPad, which is very understandable because Procreate itself is not expensive. Procreate is, I think, like $9. No subscription or anything. But an iPad is not. An iPad costs you anywhere from $500 to $1,200, and that is quite a hefty barrier to entry. So it depends on what hardware you're using. I don't, like I said, I don't know. I don't use any of these other programs, but I know a lot of other people do. So I have faith that they're good, or at least good enough. Yes, I think I do want to do an Enigmorph drawing challenge. That we got so many submissions for the Bigfoot contest. I really wasn't expecting it to be so popular. It was kind of just like a whim thing that I was working on this Bigfoot video, and as I was writing the script, I was like, there are so many different versions of Bigfoot. And then I was like, wait, I bet I could see a lot of different versions of Bigfoot if I asked the Subjectively fans to draw them. And so I was like, let's open the floor up here and have some other artists' interpretations of Bigfoot. And there were so many cool designs. So yeah, I think the next big community thing I want to do, I said at the end of the Bigfoot video, I want to do like a backrooms thing. Like design creatures to live in the backrooms. I think I want to make it even more specific, make like a little template for people where they can also design a floor of the backrooms. This strange, uncanny liminal space, and then design a creature that would inhabit your specific liminal space that you've designed. Thank you. I'm glad you liked those stories. I was very happy with, especially the mythological Bigfoot story. I was feeling the spring mood. I had some pretty bad seasonal affective depression this winter, and I've been really appreciating the warm weather and all the greenery coming back and the sun and the leaves and the trees, and I just wanted to kind of celebrate that a little bit. And when I was thinking about Bigfoot as a character, I feel like that's my favorite version of Bigfoot, is this super chill nature spirit that, doesn't really hate humans for their mistreatment of the environment. It actually really likes humans, because humans, unlike other animals, have a deeper appreciation for nature. Rather than just living and surviving in it, we create our own things, and we celebrate the trees and the animals and the weather. So as much as as some humans have a disregard for the environment and for nature as a whole, it's still this version of Bigfoot still likes us, just hopes that we change the way we view the world and nature. the new texture brushes. And just kind of do one of these. Get this sort of like wood grain texture. Oh, well, thank you guys. I'm glad you enjoy the videos and the streams. I really like doing these too. I don't always feel up to streaming. You know, streaming is not something I think I could do full time because sometimes I just really don't feel like interacting with people, even you know, over you know, in a context like this where I'm like not really interacting with. I mean, I am interacting with people, but it's not like we're even in face now. I can't see any of you, but just the way I work mentally, it's hard for me to interact with people for any extended period of time. But sometimes I feel up to it. Sometimes I feel like I want to share what I'm working on, and I want to chat with people, get ideas from fans and stuff. So I don't stream all the time, but when I do, I enjoy it. It's fun hanging out with you guys, so to speak. And sometimes you guys give me really good ideas, like Tortiki. And I try to be as entertaining as possible, but I know I'm not, comparatively to a lot of streamers, I'm not like a kooky crazy guy. I've been thinking about streaming some video games though. There's a game I really want to try that I think would be fun to stream. And maybe I'll do that in preparation for the Backrooms video if I decide to do that. Because it's got kind of a liminal space Backrooms vibe to it. Then there's a Backrooms movie coming out too, which I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I think I need to see it because like I'm so curious about what a Backrooms movie could be like. I feel like it's like a 80% chance I'm not gonna like it. 10% chance that I will enjoy it, but I didn't love it, and then like a 5% chance that I liked it, it was okay, and then like a 5% chance that it was actually really good and did a really good job capturing everything that I like about that genre. I like that. I like the librarian feel. I definitely, personally, I prefer that kind of content too. I'm not a big fan of all the shouting and yelling. I know that grabs people's attentions, but I prefer a little bit more mellow vibes. I think specifically with the Pokemon stuff, Pokemon content creators, they appeal to a younger audience. And I'm gonna be honest, like, even if you're appealing to a younger audience, I still don't think, like, screaming and yelling is good. Like, it definitely gets people's attention, especially young people's attention. But, like, I don't know, it's like saying that, like, kids are stupid, so you should make children content stupid. And it's just like, kids are not stupid. Kids are good at learning. And if you give them ways to learn, and if you show them, proper ways for adults to act, they will mimic that. That's how we learn. That's how... My mom would always say that when I was growing up. She hated children's TV shows that talked to children like they were children. And I know that sounds like counterintuitive, like, well, how else should you talk to children? But I this is how my mom felt, and I feel the same way. I think you should talk to children like they're adults. I think that if you, speaking of baby boys to, especially like someone who's like 5 or 6 or 7, like, they mimic that. They think that's how adults communicate with each other. And if you yell in front of kids, then they're gonna want to yell. And if you curse in front of kids, then they're gonna want to curse. And, like, if you sit a kid down in front of, like, some weird, like, hyper-saturated YouTube video where it's just, like, lights and sounds and really no content, they're not gonna learn anything. Like, children aren't stupid because they're babies. I mean, they are. But, like, they don't get smart magically. Like, as they get older, they don't just get smarter. That's not how human brains work. We need to be taught things. We need to be educated. We need to be exposed to experiences. And if we're not, then we stay stupid. And that's just... I think that is the wrong way to treat children. I think if we want children to grow up to be well-functioning adults, and obviously it depends, because everyone is different. Everyone has different brains, different chemical makeups. Lord knows that I was a tough kid to educate when I was growing up. But my mom read books to me, and, she limited my screen time, and she talked to me like an adult, and I could read by the time I was 5 years old. And I think that my interest in things and my natural curiosity was nurtured when I was growing up, and I think that's why I like to create things. It's why I like to do stuff like this. So I think that will be the closing topic of today's stream. I'm going to probably mess around with this a little bit more. Now that I have it finished and colored, there are a couple of things that I want to change, specifically about the eyes. But expect these finished designs to be in a video going up at the end of the week, alongside a couple of other designs. Might stream again this week before the week is up if I have some other designs that I want to work on. I want to work on them on a stream. I may just do that, so stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our Subject TV channel to get updates whenever we are streaming, and you can watch the VODs whenever you'd like. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for the conversations. It's been really fun, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.